know, this is a time of year that we hear a lot of our traditional stories. It can be stories, you know, all of our families have different kinds of what we might call our ghost stories.
I heard some of the stories, and they're all supposedly supposed to be true, you know, I remember one of my uncles would tell me they hitchhiked to the highway. We walked probably about 5 miles to the highway and catch a ride and go to town. One of them had a car at that time, and one of my uncles, and he was driving home. He got off the east of Ada, got off Highway 1 there and went down a dirt road, and he said, there's somebody in the back seat smoking a cigarette. Wasn't supposed to be nobody in there, you know. He kept driving, and he's afraid to look, but he could see somebody in the mirror smoking a cigarette back there. He said he was kind of scared, but by the time he stopped at a stop sign, noticed nobody was in there, you know. I'm a Chickasaw Ranger, and I work out here quite a bit. I was working out here in the daytime, and I was getting ready to go to lunch. It was about lunchtime, and I was getting ready to get in my pickup, and I kept hearing stomp dancing. Man, that was loud, but it sounded like it was across the road, Pauline Walker's old house. And I mean, they were getting after it. It sounded like the leader was just getting with it. It sounded kind of like Wayne Walker, so somebody really leading. And I could hear shells and people echoing back. And so I said, this is strange. That sound's coming from across the road. That can't be, you know? So anyway, I got in my truck and I drove around there, and I didn't see nothing at Pauline the Walker place. Then I went up to the stomp grounds and drove around. I didn't see nobody or nothing, you know. And that's what I said. That something ain't right here. But anyway, like I said, it was kind of wild place, tall grass and all that. And something came running from north pasture, running hard. And then all of a sudden, it flew over the fence on the north side of the house. It flew over. You could see its wings, and it started running across us. Had legs like a man. Half his body was like a bird. One of my uncles, he's always carries a rifle everywhere he goes. He had a rifle on his lap. He shot at the thing when it was getting ready to leap over the south side of the fence, and it hooped real loud, kind of like the way Indians used to hoop. I don't know if he shot it or not, but that thing hooped and it flew over. You could hear the feathers and see the feathers kind of fluffing, making that fluffing sound, and it glided down on the ground. It took off running, went straight into the woods. They called it a Mothman. I mean, we didn't know what to call it. Well, I just know it was a strange looking thing to see, but they called it a Mothman on TV. It's been reported all over the United States, I guess, you know.
My stories, I think about Adam, my uncle. He said when he was a young man making bows, and he'd go right over here by this creek over here and get his arrows for dogwood. Said he got about maybe 10, he said, all bundled up and set them by a tree, and he went looking for some more. And when he come back, they was gone, and there was nobody around. So he always says this place has got spirits and things in it, Kullihoma, that like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when we done our first dance here in '97, opened up our grounds here that night about 3 in the morning, I thought a bunch of coyotes or something was right over here making a bunch of noise. Man, it's getting loud, so I left everybody and went over there looking, and it sounded just like singing going on, stomp dancing on that next hill where the old grounds are. And the only person, I said, did you hear that? I was asking people, but Kelly Lunsford said she was laying in the car and she could hear that singing going on that night from here, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My aunt and uncle lived just before you went around that little curve. There's a bridge,
mm-hmm.
and it was about midnight, and it was kind of cloudy and sprinkling like, and the moon was shining, and the cloud would kindly cover it every now and then. And he was walking across that bridge, and all of a sudden, something appeared and started walking beside him on crutches. It scared him so bad, he ran, and there was a fence, and it had 4 wires. He jumped that fence, and the front door was opened. Our uncle was sitting in there, so he ran in there and fell in that couch, and my uncle quickly went over there and sat beside him and got a hold of him and said, "Chimathatana, chimathatana, don't get scared, don't get scared." And he said, "You're gonna be all right," because people who get really scared can die from fright.
Mm-hmm.
And he got all right, but another time, my 2 little brothers, about 2 or 3 years younger than myself, we were staying on. They had a big church here. That's the only time we came down here. Everybody was asleep, and the moon was shining light, but it was real dark. Have y'all heard of a thing that's called Nosichi?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have.
Have you?
I've experienced
Well,
it
it's a
too.
witch that comes and puts everybody to sleep, real deep sleep. And he can do anything to you he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
Before he leaves, he'll leave a scratch on you somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Leave them on.
And my brother was asleep in there on the floor, I believe, because we was in the next room in the bed. Ben, that's my brother, Ben said he heard a little commotion, and he looked around and he saw something all in black. That thing that was walking around in black went here and went there and went here, but he couldn't put Ben to sleep, so Ben decided he'd get up and see what that thing was. Well, it disappeared like that. I used to be scared to go down there and stay all night, but they didn't know anything came because they couldn't wake up. They was under a spell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Once in a while, you hear of certain ones talking about that.
I had that experience happen to me too, and I was wide awake. I made myself so brave. And I was about 5 years old. I could hear them walking towards our room. I was sleeping in the middle with my mom and my sister, and I kept getting closer. And of course, my heart started thumping big, you know, like boom, boom, just like in a cartoon, you know. And man, I was scared, and I said, "I'm gonna be brave," you know. Man, I jumped out of that cover and I chased that thing, and I chased it through one room where my aunt and my grandma and them were sleeping, and I chased them out the other door, and the latch opened, and the door opened, and I saw like a black thing leap out. I could see the stars and everything outside, you know, and then that door slammed in my face and the door latched.
It was in Nokmulgee, and my cousin was going to school there. She said there was something they were celebrating, and they were all upstairs on the 2nd floor in a circle. This girl, she was dressed in white. She came in that door, and my cousin said she walked all the way around. I don't know if it was in the front or in the back, but she walked all the way around. Nobody paid attention to her because whenever you're at school or in a big crowd like that, you don't pay attention to anybody. But she was dressed in white. She made her round, and then she went on out, and my cousin saw her going out, and she asked one of the girls there, she said, "Well, who was that girl that come in that white and made that circle and went on out?" And they said, one of them girls said, "Oh, her," said, "she's been dead a long time." She said, every now and then they see something white, but they think it's her.
Chokmashki, Elkoki. Good stories. Keep us in line.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Now y'all
Don't
can
pick
go
up
home, make a
hitchhikers.
costume and scare people.
Oh, I'm scared to go home now.
It will make you scared.
Yes, no chupa.
When I get home, I'll be looking for things.
I hope nobody's sitting in the car with me and I'm driving home.
No headlights come up behind you real quick.
That did happen at Red Spring. Joe Shields was out celebrating